All aboard. Lively Astrologer here. I can be found on YouTube at The Lively Astrologer or Gmail at thelively.astrologer.gmail or in the webland, thelively.astrologer.com. In case you want to dive just actually substantially deeper into your own personal chart. But let's take a look at this week. This is going to be an interesting week, and I'm going to give you a little insight into something that I don't normally dive into, which is politics. I'm going to do it, however, in a fashion that, if I can help it, steers clear of the political spectrum. And the reason for that is because on Tuesday this week, we have the first presidential debate between Kamala and Trump. So it should be entertaining. And I've been looking at the chart for that particular dance for about a week, rather specifically, and lots of other charts related to it. But let's just dance our way into this week and see what kind of excitement we have. Well, right off the bat, this is a chart for Monday, the 9th. On the 9th, remember, as last week was getting underway, in the middle of last week, actually, Mars went out of bounds. And Mars is one of those planets that's, it has an impulsive side, to say the least. It's in Cancer, so, possibly stirring up the pot or the cauldron, if you were, in the realm of home, in the realm of family, the realm of, your ancestors that may have messages for you, even if you don't realize that's the case. And let's go over here real quick. Also, you'll see that on this day, the moon, as Sunday was becoming Monday, it went out of bounds and will be out of bounds until Saturday, the 14th. I believe Saturday is the 14th. Yep, Saturday is the 14th. So we've got two planets doing the out of bounds dance this week. And, remember, out of bounds has unpredictability factor. There's, errant qualities of, wildness that are in play. You can't really enjoy this week, unless you embrace that moon. Well, I feel a little edgy. Yeah, edgy is a good term for out of bounds too thing. And Mars being out of bounds, how does that edginess enhance, enliven, perhaps, that family dance that you're doing? It's in there. Anyway, that's Monday. On Tuesday, on Tuesday we have the presidential debate. And on this Tuesday, this chart doesn't do it justice. I have the chart for Philadelphia at the time of the election, and we'll get to that chart, just not right now. We have a square, you can kind of see Sun to Jupiter. We have a waning square from Jupiter to Saturn. We have a forming square from the Moon to Saturn, which, when it completes, which it will during this evening, it's basically applying first square of this particular lunar dance that we're going through for the month. And that will make a grand cross in the chart. I'm going to hold off on actually getting into that until I get to the debate chart. But things to just be aware of. I'm just kind of going through the chart because I want to spend a little more time on the debate chart. This is the 11th. And during this day, the Jupiter Sun perfects, but it's in play for several days. So, and then, the next things that in just dancing through the week, you can kind of see that the moon is actually applying to a little bit more of a square with, Neptune in retrograde that is taking place later on this day, Wednesday. The Thursday happens is Jupiter Day. Well, Jupiter and the Sun are in, almost exact square on this day. There's an energy that squares represent that don't necessarily say, hey, by the way, I want to give you an easy equation to work on. Yeah, a square says, I'm going to give you an equation to work on, but it's likely to be algebraic. It's not simple plus minus mathematics. It's there are pluses and minuses in the mathematics, but also factors that could be square roots and, cube things that are, in the mix. Square says, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. I'm going to just bump ahead here to the weekend and into Sunday. Sunday, a whole bunch of things take place. Mars, remember, out of bounds, because it's out of bounds until the 18th, comes into a square with the lunar nodes right there, And this, a square to the nodes, with an out of bounds moon, the nodes are a kind of like a destiny line in the chart, or a destiny line that exists out there saying, by the way, if you are paying attention to what the nodal dance is, there's a south node over here in Libra that says, where did you come from? And were there challenges possibly for that particular set of scenario that came from the past? And are you paying attention to it? Is it running your life? Because it can, because oftentimes it's like, oh, that south node represents something that you don't really need to apply too much energy to. It sort of comes naturally because you've done it before. And a lot of people make the error of saying, oh, I found my calling in life. It's that south node thing, and here it's in Libra. I get along with people easily. Well, not necessarily. I get along with people readily. There could be challenges in that, but, the south node says that you most likely came from a scenario where the interchange that took place between you and others was part of the scenario. And thus, when you get together with people, the south node says, hey, let's do the dance. Let's see what we can do together. Whereas the north node kind of sits there in an opposite perspective from that south node and saying, remember, this is a destiny line, if you want to accomplish the things that your soul intended when you incarnated this time around, you need to pay a little bit more attention to that north node side of the equation. It isn't going to be handed to you on a silver platter. Oftentimes, what the south node seems like is taking place. No, you need to apply some actual work toward, or energy toward grasping. What does that north node have in store for me? And how can I glean effectively what that is? It's going to require work, and here we have North Node in Aries, So right now, we've been going through a fair amount of time where this nodes have been moving down backwards. That's how the nodes move through the Aries Libra axis. And the Aries side of this equation right now in square to Mars up here is saying, it's Mars rules it right now. So it's conceivable, I'm just going to throw this out there, that that Martian factor in square to both of these nodes is saying to this nodal dance, I feel like kicking up that north node side of the equation. Well, it's square to both. It's actually kicking up the energy to both sides of the destiny line. Perhaps a little more leaning toward, awakening you to opportunity that if you take will create a growth factor for you from the North Node perspective of, being energized, being ready to go out and do something very dynamic. Doesn't necessarily matter what it is, there's a dynamism that just wants to, that impulsive drive to just, strike out, make an impression. Anyway, also on this day, you see this big giant blue triangle here in the chart? Venus moved into an exact trine with Jupiter. And the moon, which moves, actually I think the moon's moving. Let's see what the moon is moving. The moon is moving at 14.5 degrees a day. It's whipping along, moving fast. Anyway, so it's forming this trine with both Venus and Jupiter from Aquarius. This is an air trine. The mental capacities are being stimulated by these three air signs, and the moon coming into rather quickly make that grand trine equation show up is bringing that Aquarian perspective, and this could actually be seen excuse me, as the moon can be seen as a representation of the culture, the people kind of things in Aquarius, and this is coming in after we've gone through the earlier debate that happened this week. We'll get to that chart. Hang in there. And tying in these three air signs, Jupiter and Venus, and Venus is there in the sign of what does it mean to actually engage with one another. Jupiter in Gemini saying, let's converse about this. This is this grand trine at work, and not in a small fashion. It's Jupiter after all. What is the larger picture that is in play? And Aquarius is always saying, how can we get together and facilitate a group energy that can be meaningful to more of us than normal. Anyway. Okay. There we go. This is the chart for the beginning of the debate. And I'm going to try and stay away from the actual political side of this. But I have to point out, here we are, Moon in Sagittarius. So in the 8th house, this is an actual chart for the beginning of the debate. Well, the 8th house is, it wants to get into the nuts and bolts, nitty gritty, deeper side of the mystery of what is being presented. And it's in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius, as far as Moon, we the people are concerned, wants to basically be shown a perspective that has the potential for growth, There's always more. That's what Sagittarius has as its bottom line. What is the larger picture? And, what is the larger picture in the eighth house, a Sagittarius house in this case, that, we might be shown? Are we going to be shown what are the mysteries? There are mysteries as to what is going to happen. And, right now, the whole entire globe, per se, is watching what's going on with this election thing here in the United States. Anyway, they start out, kibitzing and comparing notes with this grand cross at work. Remember, our Jupiter is in square to the sun. Maybe not exact, it's a forming square. The sun is in square to the moon. The moon is going to be racing by here this very evening because it's moving 14 plus degrees on this day, which is in square to Saturn over here in Pisces. So, and that's, of course, a waning square between Saturn and Jupiter. But Saturn's in Pisces. So that's Saturn square to the moon over here, over there in Pisces. It's offering the challenge, remember it's a square, to how we perceive things with our imagination. That's the realm of Pisces. Saturn essentially might want to be very practical, yet being in Pisces, it's kind of like there's a vision or a version of the equation of what it is that is transpiring here in this debate factor that is going to be, it may be a challenge for us as the people to try and ferret out what is the larger picture that's being painted by these two people attempting to inspire us with their vision for what it will mean once we put them in that Oval Office. I'm not going to bring in my personal views on this. I'm just going to say that, each of us is going to be looking at this and trying to look for what is that higher road potential that could transpire by having one or the other of these people in as president. Now the moon over here in opposition to Saturn, it's essentially it's a waning opposition, but it's close enough to say that from the meaning perspective, Virgo as meaning, this solar fire wants to, somehow inspire. It's a square, this grand cross that's going on in the chart, wants to be an inspiration for how to best utilize the facts and the factors that are in play as this debate is underway, weighing and balancing, if you were, which of these clients is offering us a version of what it is that we are going to be more beneficially inspired by should that particular person end up in office. And Jupiter over here in opposition to the moon, we already talked a little bit about that. Don't think small. And the conversation, Jupiter in Gemini, and opposed to this first square crisis and action moment that's happening this evening and should be definitely influencing this debate, is, the potential exists there if the two people debating are willing to, put their nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and really present to us something that is meaningful as far as what it is that we as a people, and I'm not talking about just we as a people here in the United States, because this effect that the United States has on the globe, we as a people of the globe, because that's what we really all are attempting to facilitate something that will not, in the long run, be detrimental to the human race or to any other aspect of the global environment. You know, our American way, technologically, materialistically, and stuff, is not beneficial to the global environment. You know, we're using up resources at a lickety split, dangerous level, speed, and things that we put into the environment, such as plastic, which will be around forever, is, it's piling up, piling up. Which of these people that are running for this presidential office actually might have in mind a version of what it is that will be beneficial in the long run for all of us? This is up to you. I'm just saying that for this particular debate, with this grand scross happening right on the first quarter moon, there's an energy in play here. It could be edgy. There could be an edgy element to what transpires tonight. We just have to hope that the story spun out by either of these candidates is as close to the truth as a square demands. Potentially, someone could spin a tale. There could be a trickster or a con on board for this particular debate. Be wise. Pay attention to what it is and who is saying what. And make your determination. Who will be better for not just this country, but for the globe that we live in? Okay. That's all I'm going to do for today. I'm going to be tuning in to see what's going on in this debate, and I trust that those of you that have a concern for what is appropriate in this time that we live in will also listen with your heart. I don't mean not the head. The heart is the answer to, soul growth, which is required if we are meaningfully going to move forward. So, ciao for now. That's all I got. See you all next week. The chart with that grand trine that I showed there on Sunday, this is, if you look at the whole entire week as it unfolds after the debate, they're going to have little things to consider that. And the very first thing on the next day, the sun square to Jupiter in Mercury sign, and Mercury just went on Sunday into Virgo. The analysis could get maybe just a little too much, but that grand trine that happens on Sunday, that's us basically recognizing that there is a path forward that can be meaningful. That grand trine in our capacity, in our thinking capacities, is asking us to, look between the lines. Observe the potential of what it would mean if we were working together effectively. Anyway, that's all I got for this week. See you all next week.